Okay, so yeah, we have done our part, and we continue to still do our part. We never gave up. We never reached the point where we said, "Oh, the congressman doesn't want to talk to us. Fine, never mind him." We never said that.
Yep.
We just kept on asking, and we're still asking up to now. All right, 9:10. Let's keep it on the phones here and do our weekly check-in with the Speaker of the Guam Legislature, Speaker Tina Munia Barnes. Good morning, Speaker.
Good morning, Manana Sidzulis. Many of God's blessings to both you, Chris, and Sabrina.
Hi.
I was going to share with you that I just chimed in and I heard your conversation a little bit, and I was going to say, I always tell my children, be the better person, be nice.
Yeah.
Right on. And I want to hear you be nice now, Speaker, because we got to ask you about this. You've had your share of back and forth with Congressman St. Nicholas, and not always, not always friendly back and forth, but I mean, I want to hear you be the better person. What's your 2 cents on this whole formation of the subcommittee with the House Ethics?
I've always believed that the process should go through its due diligence. I have come from many years of experience working at the Public Defender's Office, and I truly believe that every person is innocent till they're proven guilty, and I always said that justice will prevail, and I will continue to take that stand, Chris and Sabrina. So, for me, it's let the process do its due diligence, and then the outcome, depending on the investigative findings, will come to the table.
Right. But when this came out though, back in September, October of last year, he was saying, it was part of a conspiracy, basically, by his own party.
And that's why I always say that you make sure that when investigative work goes out on anything or anybody, that there will always be the pros, the cons. There will always be two sides, and like I said, findings, investigative findings will always come out, and then there's a process that we work with, and I truly believe that moving forward on this process, that time to do its work will happen, and we'll get a further finding after what the committee comes out with. And we all have to do, I share that respect for everybody, and that's not just in this issue, but in every issue.
So there's not a single part of you, Speaker, that's like, Ezekinatmu.
No. Chris and Bree, you know me better than that.
I know. I'm just digging.
But I just want to share with the both of you, thank you for your patience this last few weeks. I know that we've been playing phone tags, and I know that we've been really busy with session going on, and we will be voting today. I know it's been quite a challenge, and I'm glad we can continue to resume our weekly calls. I didn't mean to hang up on you. It's just that time didn't allow me to come on these calls, but I must say that in all my terms in office, this 7th term for me has been one that is quite different. And I know last week, I want to share with you guys that I was accused of not supporting an amendment to lower the business privilege tax, but I have to say, and again, in my defense, that as a speaker, it's my job to ensure that the amendments that are proffered must be compliant, and we work with our standing rules. I want to share with you my perspective that when we were going through the measures, Bill 323, which is Joe Augustine's bill, was a measure to help our struggling small businesses. And as we looked at the impact of that was ranging to about $6.6 million in the gross receipt tax. And when that BBT amendment was proffered, my ruling was based on our rules. And I have to share with the both of you, and correct me if I'm wrong, but if we have to look at the cost of $6.6 million, I want to say that $6.6 million is substantially different from one that will now cost $66 million. So, as in every measure that goes through, we always have to look at what the impact will be, and is how do you support that, and how do you move with your colleagues. And I will tell everybody, in every measure that gets deliberated and debated on the floor, The magic number is 8.
Mhm.
But I also want to note for you that even based on these matters coming to the floor, I want to say that after that those measures were up, the next day I was very grateful to see that Senator Jim Moylan actually followed the rules and proffered his own perspective and his own bill 9, which he introduced on the first day of his term. And while everyone says the Democrats have opposed it, I have to just state for the record that when that bill was on, it had the number of support, a number of our colleagues that, for the record, it had bipartisan support, and that measure got to be placed on the agenda. And again, to clarify, this bill that was introduced, Bill 9, was the 521 days, and for the calculation, it's 1 year, 5 months, and 4 days. I need to also clear for the record that Bill 9 had a public hearing, which was July 16th of last year. That hearing was over an hour, and I just have to say to the both of you that I don't know how one can still not be ready. And for me personally, I kind of find it offensive that well, there are real victims out there that we should be helping. I have to sit here and to listen to a small faction of my colleagues who continue to claim to be victims of their own imagination. And I just want to say it's seriously unfortunate on how we spend a lot of hours dealing with a lot of pettiness and sometimes even just trying to get the headlines and instead of doing our jobs. And I must say that in our process, doing and getting bills deliberated on the floor is having to be ready for it, having to whip your own votes to get the support of it, and knowing how to facilitate and navigate it moving forward. So,
Speaker,
as I make those clarifications and at least justification on my part, because I didn't have time to talk about it last week.
Right.
Let me just get on to more positive stuff and
Speaker,
that my colleagues.
Just in closing, right? So, I get what you're saying about Senator Moylan and his bill and not being ready. But what would your advice be to him? Because it's his first rodeo, right? So even if his bill hasn't been heard in a year and a half, should he just always be going around with those amendments in his back pocket just to be ready in the crazy event that it sees the session floor?
Person, Sabrina, I need you to know that even in a term, every term is different, but when bills get introduced, you have support staff that help you do bill analysis. I don't pretend to know every bill. I think we're already over 360 some bills.
Right.
I don't know every bill. As a matter of fact, sometimes I don't even remember the numbers. You tell me a number, I say, okay, tell me what it's relative to, and then you look at the logistics. But if you introduce bills and you get your staff gives you the bill analysis and you want to work on it, at least your bills personally, you should at least have in heart and mind that you have an understanding of how things need to be facilitated or how you're going to navigate it and how you're going to whip those votes to get it to come your way. And that's what the art of negotiations is and mitigation is, and as far as policy making. And I will be the first to tell you that I have always opened my door for any of my colleagues who had any problems on any situations. And Senator Jim will tell you, I always say, Jim, Senator, please just call me if there's a concern, if you're adamant about something and you want to get something across. You know what? The best thing that can happen is I can help you, and the worst thing that can happen is that, you know what, I really don't agree with you, or you're entitled to your perspective and see how you can get your votes. But my door is open, and on that effort, it's how fast can we get to getting that vote of 8, and how much do we need to defend it, because you need to be ready. And I can always say that every bill that goes through its process, by the time it gets on session floor, literally by the time it ends, could be changed totally.
Right. And
I remember Speaker Wampat used to saying, yeah, it could come out to be an ugly duckling or a beautiful swan. It depends on how you do it. And I know we laugh about that today, but this is how the process works. And like I tell all my colleagues, this door is always open. If there's anything I can help to facilitate or to help push along, please, I'm a phone call away.
Okay,
Right.
so let's get on to the voting, Speaker, if that's what you wanted to talk about. How's it looking on the votes
No.
here? Or
Well, we have voting today at 1. There's 8 measures on. We've already done all the appointments, so we hope that we can get everything voted by 1 o'clock today. I know that we're really busy in the legislature. Senator Therese Talahi has a public hearing that's been going on. As soon as I'm done here, I'll zoom in, because she's got a lot of critical bills that were handed down by the governor as it relates to the protection and safeguarding of our community, the safety measure bills. And I want to get to hearing that stand your ground, those criminal sexual conduct violations, making sure that parents are punishable to crimes that their children commit, and the list goes on. But anyways, on some positivity that my colleagues and I are working on, I know that we are all really eager to reopen our tourism industry, and I'm really glad to have one of the folks that are working. I always say the best man on the job, one who's had many, many years of experience in Guam itself and knows a lot of the numbers. I want to say that I continue to work closely with him and the communities, business stakeholders. I want to say that I've been doing research, and from what I understand from our source markets with Japan, Taiwan, Korea, regardless of where you're coming from, they are also requiring a mandatory 14-day quarantine upon return. And many of our visitors spend a few days here, and if they can't go back to work, this may be one of the deterrents from them coming to our island, and it will prevent them from visiting us. And I had a preliminary meeting with the Guam's newest Japanese Consul General, Consul General Toshiaki, and presented to him a plan that I've been working on with my colleagues. It's called the Guam Healthy Entry and Departure Program. It's a draft bill. I've shared with it to the media outlets earlier, but again, it's a draft, and I will be having a meeting with all the Consul Generals. I want to make sure that I meet with them this week, and hopefully we can get better insights on how they want to move forward, because it literally takes an engagement from all these markets that we're dealing with. If we are opening up our borders and they're opening up, how can we work on things that will safeguard our passengers coming to and from? And I did meet with the business community. I want to share with you, we had a meeting, I want to say 2 weeks ago, and a lot of the business stakeholders were opposed to the idea of testing. They say that testing will be a deterrent for tourists to come to Guam, and however, given that their home countries will not be allowing them to come back home without them getting quarantined, I am grateful that Senator Pito Terlahi and Senator Clint Regel has worked closely with me to come up with this compromise measure. And Patty, Chris and Sabrina, I want to say that working with regional partners, working with the Consul Generals that are here representing their different countries, and just bringing everybody to the same table, like I always do. I think that we can hope to find better
clarity, but more importantly, amenable resolution so we can move forward with our draft efforts of what Senator Pito Terlahi and Senator Clint and I have worked on about testing. I also want to expand on that, Chris and Sabrina, about even taking care of our children. And as we look at school opening up within the next month and a half, I know my staff keeps saying that they too are overwhelmed, but we have to safeguard everybody, and our children are very important. And how can we do that? And I think testing is still very important. I've been fighting this for months. I know that the governor has really
taken the opportunity to loosen up and work on some of the testing sites, opening testings within, working closely with the village mayors, and I'm really happy that they've stepped up, and the mayors always step up to the plate, and testing is crucial to getting our islands open so that visitors can come and visit. So that's another aspect that I'm working on. And then I still want to tell you that I have a couple of issues working on the federal perspective, and I've had many constituents call me regarding two issues. One, regarding cockfighting and reopening the war claims filing period. And I want to share with you that just this week in California, I'd like to say that they followed my footsteps and passed local legislation to compensate the African Americans for the atrocities that they suffered. And as you guys may be aware, America as a whole is now taking a new approach to correcting the wrongs from ages ago. And given that reopening the war claims filing period will take an act of Congress, I want to share with you and to our residents that I have collected almost 800 signatures for the war claims petition, and this petition was put out since the survivors started to receive their checks, and a lot of the survivors or their descendants have signed this petition to revisit reopening this war claims for those who still have not gotten it and are alive today. And I want to share with you that I will definitely be transmitting that to our congressman. And I want to say that I'm hopeful and I'm praying that he will jump on the bandwagon and do right by our sinus and take the time to revisit this. Sabrina and Chris, I'm still getting calls even off island in reference to the concerns. Our office is still taking in constituent concerns, directing them on where they need to go, following up for those that have been processed here and still haven't received it. Believe it or not, we still get those calls.
Right.
So,
I saw some on Facebook, Speaker.
Yes. And please, if you need to direct them my way so that I can at least help facilitate them through the federal process if they didn't get theirs here. Well, I again have to thank the administration for working closely with us and making sure that over 1,000 recipients received their war claims. And you know what, just 75 years and finally receiving just a little of what I think money can never repay what they've gone through, and as far as the atrocities, but I always say that forgiveness wipes away the tears and we shall never forget. But this was just something very little that our people here, our policymakers, could do to help our sinus. And moving on, now having gotten a lot of calls from our cockfighting community out there.
Good.
I want you to know that the cockfighters continue to tell me that it's unfortunate that the congressman has refused to meet with them. And while I do have about 1,000 some signatures on a petition to help their efforts on what even Puerto Rico has done for their residents, I hate saying this, but I don't think he's receptive to this one. But I want you to know that I've been working closely with other territorial representatives to see what we can do to move this effort forward. I've shared with you, I've got over 1,000 signatures and they continue to come in.
Speaker.
And I've also spoken to our brothers and sisters in the Marianas, and they too want to work closely with us and to either do a dual resolution, and their agreement with Uncle Sam has been more promising for them to keep cockfighting alive in the Marianas, and I'm just wanting to see how we can jump onto the bandwagon with them and seeing how they can work not just Guam and the Marianas, but all the territories that have been affected like this. So.
Sounds like you might have to run for Congress.
Speaker, when you say you're working with the other territories' delegates, Can you tell us which territories and what their, obviously if you're working with them, their stance is that they want to
Yeah, the local
they want to
senators-
push for cockfighting to be allowed in the territories.
Yes, we've been working with the local senators. I've also talked to the Senate president in Saipan, and they've shared with me that, and Congressman Khalili, I've also shared with him our perspective and how we can move forward on helping our cockfighting community here. And I didn't realize how large the community was. I don't cockfight. I know some relatives who do, but I didn't realize that they take it as passionately, and this has been ingrained in their traditions. And all they keep saying to me is, you know what, we need to see if you can continue to hear us, hear our pleas, and work with what we can do.
Right.
And it's how multi-generations have come together, and we're talking about 3 generations still cockfighting, and I didn't realize it until I started going to they had a couple of meetings. Dr. Mabwaka had a couple of informational briefings to bring people together, and it hasn't stopped. So, the only thing that stopped us for a period of time was the COVID. But again, there was a call recently from the cockfighting community to see how we can do about moving their efforts forward, and they've turned in over 1,000 names. So I cannot set that aside, Sabrina and Chris, without at least trying.
What do you think it is, though, Speaker? Because I know that Kalili is working to support cockfighting in the territories. I know Puerto Rico's a delegate. Why have we got nothing from Congressman Nicholas? And I've talked to cockfighters, and they just don't understand. They're thinking like, what, is he too good to talk to us? Because they've been asking.
And again, Chris and Sabrina, I can't speak for him. I can only speak for myself in saying that I need to help them move this effort. And as they're working with Puerto Rico, Khalili, Congressman Khalili, and those guys continuing to work together, even with Saipan, we've come together. And I want to say that in the efforts of moving forward, we've got enough petitions to go out and saying, you know what, we matter, and this is really, really big, and we're going to fine tune it and submit all the documentation to them so they can help move this forward. So because one person doesn't want to entertain it doesn't mean that we can't continue to do our part.
Speaker, I wanted to get back to, though, your bill, your draft bill on the Guam Healthy Entry and Departure Testing Program at ports of entry of Guam. Is there any provisions in this bill that will also mandate similar testing for military personnel in terms of them coming off base? I know they're coming in and out for training.
Yes, and ours was a little unique because we were going to be working with customs, and this is going to be open to everybody or anybody. It wasn't going to be forced. It was going to be, open. And we were going to sell it on a way not to be quarantined, and continuing to work with our with the advisory group and of course public health and all that. But we were going to make it open that customs will be a part of facilitating this and opening it up to everybody. And in the beginning, it was a part of saying, you know what, it was a way to step away from the 14-day quarantine hold. But I know again that just changed within the last couple of days. So again, we need to regroup with my colleagues to see how much more we can work with that. But you are right, Bree. We need to open it up to everybody. We need to include even the military personnel that comes in and out. And I just learned that Anderson up at Anderson, they have express flights coming in, right? And they have jurisdiction also, and customs goes out there. So I think that if we engage and facilitate with customs and let them take the lead on this, and again, they would work closely with whatever RFP and whatever specifications would be needed to do the testing. It wouldn't be them doing it personally.
Mhm.
They would probably set up an RFP to get somebody, qualified to do the testing. This was a way to make sure that those who are coming in get tested and those who are going out get tested. And then again, I think I want to share with you, after meeting with Ike and some of the customs employees, that this was something that could be doable, because they're the boots on the ground, and they're like the first responders who get these passengers coming to and from.
Right. Well, it's good to
So-
hear that, there's some sort of dialogue on that.
Yes, definitely. Very receptive dialogue. But again, we got to continue to push it. So that's what I've been working on. And then I know I'm up against time, but as I don't know if you're aware that I also have something called a care kiosk in my office,
Right,
which
I saw
stands
that.
for the COVID-19 Recovery Express. And if anyone needs help availing of the federal assistance and doesn't have a computer in their homes, or would like to have someone to assist them with it, my office has been taking appointments and will continue to take appointments to help with this. I want to share with the both of you that we have 2 workstations. When I opened the kiosk last week, it was 1, but because of the high demand, we picked up, we opened another workstation, and I have a staffer, I have a couple of staff members helping out, and I want to apologize to those in advance, because we literally have been processing close to 16 appointments a day. We were trying to do it 1 every hour, but I need you to know that the process to work on something like this, based on the questions that need to be answered, some can take as little as 40 minutes and others over an hour. So I want to apologize in advance to those who haven't been able to make. I know that GCC and Department of Labor have been doing their part, and I know that they're overwhelmed and inundated, and that's why I said, let me see what we can do. And again, I have to thank my staff, because they've really stepped up to the plate to help make this happen. And because we still have our risk management memorandum in place as it relates to COVID-19, we're doing it by appointment only, and,
Right.
and we're working it in.
Speaker, the fact that you had to step up and do your part to help get these applications for people to apply, I mean, what does that say about the Department of Labor?
No, it's just, you know what, Bree?
Yeah.
We've never had unemployment before. This is a first-time program. I must give them credit. Nobody had any idea of where to go, how to start, what to do, and Department of Labor continues to go. We had been working with the Treasury, the White House, in getting guidance on this, and our first take was Guam wasn't going to be included because we never had an unemployment insurance program for the government. Never had that program, and because of that, they took great strides in including our island. And I have to say this, that I must thank the White House, the Trump administration's folks, for taking the time to listen to Guam and working with the Department of Labor, because it has been brutal, crucial, and everything we do. And even at that, is Guam willing to accept the unemployment insurance program after this program is over, as we continue, just in case another pandemic happens or another crisis, an Asian downturn or something to that effect? I don't know. Is Guam business stakeholders willing to accept unemployment insurance? We don't know. When I tried it in the 27th and 29th Guam legislature, you need to know I got crucified. I mean, even the mere thought of bringing up unemployment insurance and having businesses partake into the payment of that, it was hell. Between that and universal health care.
Right, yeah.
I'm not saying anything negative about the Department of Labor and not doing their job, but I do have issues with the fact that the Department of Labor, when there's over 38,000 people who are unemployed, and the Department of Labor is hiring people but not letting people know that they're hiring, but only letting people or only hiring people that are part of the transition committee or who sent in applications way back when.
Yeah.
Even
So-
that, Speaker,
that's
you got to admit
I
that's
don't
fishy.
feel that's
right?
that's fair.
Okay, so my understanding was the employees that were being hired from Department of Labor were to assist in the program moving forward. But you know what? I probably would not have to look into it. I can commit to seeing what the process is and why those employees were picked up. I know that every quarter or every so many months that they have to give a report to the legislature, but sooner than later, I can put that on my bucket list to check into.
Are you going to have an oversight hearing about it, Speaker?
There
I
was
don't
an
have
oversight.
on
wasn't.
labor. It is the good Senator Regine Lee. She's had 2 oversight briefings already, but
they
we have
didn't go into
human
the hiring,
resources.
though.
They
But
asked
we have
about
human
it.
resources as the oversight. I have oversight on human resources, and I can definitely look into that
Yeah,
and get a
'cause
response back to you.
It definitely seems like it would be a human resources issue. Speaker, we're I mean, wow, way over. We got a couple more calls to get to, but
Yeah,
I want to
so-
ask you before we let you go. People asking in the comments, is Speaker Tina Munoz Barnes running for re-election?
Yeah, she. Oh.
Yes, I did. I was told by the Guam Election Commission that I was the first Democrat
Okay.
to file, but I'm hoping that my colleagues, all of them, will pick up and submit their packages before June 30th, because that's the line. And Guam Election Commission, my hats off to them, because when I turned in my application, from social distancing to having the sanitizing our hands and doing everything in order, they were perfect, and they were so gracious and very accommodating, and they said that they know that they're going to be busy for the next week.
All right. And so we're voting on the choice bill, 1 o'clock this afternoon. I know we're anticipating it getting voted on Friday. You, Senator Pito, on your end, Speaker, how confident are you feeling? Because we're hearing that the votes are there.
I've been working really hard with my colleague, Senator Pito. I want to thank him. He too has been entertaining a lot of calls as it relates to that. You see it on the Facebooks, messaging on how they want choice back. So again, the magic number is 8, and I was told that number was there, but we just need to reaffirm and ask our colleagues to please support this effort. And there's
Sounds like we got 2.
no amount of money is allotted for one to save a life, and if one says that they should be given that choice, let's give it a shot. And I've always said this to everyone out there: what may have been bad back then may be good today. What may have been good back then may not be good today, and that's why in every bill that becomes law, sometimes it needs to be updated, it needs to be repealed, it needs to be amended. So those things happen, and it changes with the time. So
All right.
again, in our efforts of moving forward, we feel that based on the cries and the pleas of our community, that this was a way to make that change, and we hope to get the bill, the numbers today. I think we might have 8, but I also want to note to you again, going back to our petitions, that I want to ask our congressman to protect the cultural traditions of cockfighting. And if you know what, if you can call me, my number's here, and
Right.
477-2520.
Right. Yeah, I don't know if
I've
it's the
always
fighting
said that.
cocks he's concerned about, though, Speaker.
No, you know what? Cockfighting, war claims, and a lot of the federal issues that are out there.
You know, one other way you can resolve this, Speaker, is you could run.
Maybe you should run.
Yeah.
Bree and Chris.
No.
Thank you, Speaker.
Thank you.
All
I
right.
know I took a lot of your time, but I
That's
just
cool.
want to
Yeah.
give a briefing update,
Got it.
and my office is always open. Again, I share my number, 477-2520, and thank you for giving
All
me
right.
the time every Monday to catch up with you.
You got it. We'll see
Thank
you
you,
next Monday.
Speaker.
Thank you, Speaker. Wash your hands. 9:44.
All right.
Let's-
Session 1 o'clock
Yeah.
this afternoon.
Let's keep it on the phones here. Tess, sorry, Tess Archangel from Public Health. You know, they call her the speaker because she just won't stop speaking.